to my channel, Board Games in a Minute. I am going to do my top 10 games of 2022. Now, you might be wondering, why is this video coming out in late January? Things were insanely busy for me in the end of December and early January. It just wasn't a good time. So better late than never, I think, right? So here we go, my top 10 of 2022. So coming in at number 10, we have Lacrimosa, and I'm going to just read you guys the relevant information from the website Board Game Geek. So Lacrimosa is a game designed by Gerard Asensi and Ferran Renalius, and the art is done by Jared Blondo and Enrique Coriminas, and it's for 1 to 4 players, published by Devir Games. And this did in fact come out in 2022. Now this is an open drafting, deck building, like hand management kind of game in which you are going to be trying to decide which cards to use, on which parts of the board. You are going to have endgame bonuses. It's also a deck building game, not sure if I mentioned that. So, there is a deck that you are going to be building up and adding more cards to. The cool part about this game is that you are going to have cards in your hand each round, and then you are going to decide which ones to play at the top of the board and then which ones to play at the bottom of the board, which will give you the end of round bonuses that you are going to collect. There's a lot going on in this game. There's, many different paths to victory. You can try to, work on this Requiem part of the board. You can focus on traveling and trying to get end game bonuses. You can try to do different compositions of music pieces. So one of the main criticisms of this game is that the theme and mechanics don't really tie in together, and I will agree with that. Typically, I'm not a huge fan of games where the theme and mechanics seem to have nothing to do with each other, and it seems like the theme was just pasted on. But in this case, I just really enjoyed my play of it so much that I was able to overlook that. And that's why it's at number 10 instead of higher up on my list, just because the theme and the mechanics didn't really go together. You could just say the theme was pasted on. And people might say that it's just another beige, boring Euro, but I think that the beige artwork is just really beautiful in this game. I think the board is still really beautiful, unlike other bland beige Euros. So for me, that is not a minus. So I really enjoyed my play of Lacrimosa, and it is my number 10 for 2022. My number 9 game for 2022 is Paint the Roses. This is a game designed by Ben Goldman, and the art is done by Jackie Davis and Naomi Stanton-Gulak, and it's published by North Star Games, and it's for 2 to 5 players. This is a deduction game with an Alice in Wonderland theme, and there are communication limits in this game, so you can't openly discuss things, but you are trying to guess each other's clues. Now, I don't know how many editions of this game came out, whether there's a deluxe and a non-deluxe edition, but I have this really nice edition of it with these beautiful acrylic tiles. I think I have the deluxe edition, and not going to lie, I mean, that just adds to gameplay. It just enhances my experience of the game, and I'm pretty sure that's what helped it to secure a spot on this list as well. I do enjoy deduction games, and this is a really good one. It can be made so much more difficult by adding in all these different expansions that it comes with, like the different characters. So we have won this game without the expansions, but have yet to win it with any of the expansions added in. So you have these different kinds of shrub tiles, and on a player's turn they're going to pick a tile and place it somewhere into the garden, and then without speaking you're supposed to try to guess these win cards that you have. You are trying to win this game before the queen catches up and it's off with your heads. It is a fantastic deduction game. I absolutely enjoy it. I've played it a number of times at 2 players. I don't know how it plays at a higher player count, but I'm sure it's just as fine. But yeah, it's a really wonderful deduction game, and I absolutely love it, and I'm so glad that I have all the expansions so that I can vary up the, add variety to the game and make it different each time. So this is my number 9 game for 2022. My number 8 game for 2022 is Long Shot the Dice game, which is designed by Chris Handy, and the art is done by Klaus Souza, and it's published by Perplexed Games, and it's for 1 to 8 players. This is a roll and write game. I had the opportunity to cover this game for its Kickstarter launch, and this is one of those review copies that I was glad I got to keep, and me and my gaming group played it a number of times. We always have such a blast when we play this game. So you are betting on different horses that are going around around a racetrack and you have the opportunity to buy these horses. You have the opportunity to push some horses back that other players have bought to try to limit their winnings. You know, there's so many different combos you can have in this game. You can even chain combos in this game. It is so much fun, and it's like you're on the edge of your seat just waiting to see which horses are going to win and hoping that your horses come in first, second, or third place. Really enjoy this game. Every time me and my game group, you know, pull this game out and play it, we have such a blast. So I had to include this on the list. I have not yet played it solo, but I would like to give that a shot as well. So yeah, so my number 8 game for 2022 is Long Shot the Dice game. My number 7 game for 2022 is Monsters on Board. Monsters on Board is a game for 1 to 4 players designed by Alexander Mikic, Ivo Neskovic, and Samuel Petreski, and the art is done by the Micho, and it's published by Final Frontier Games. Now this is a dice drafting, dice rolling, point-to-point movement game with like end bonuses. There's a lot going on. So in this game, you're going to be rolling some dice, and then you're going to place these dice in your Fearmobiles, and then you're going to take a die and then pass along the Fearmobile. So you'll be collecting these different dice and placing them onto your own player board, and with those dice, you will then be performing different actions. So you're trying to get your monsters through this town to the end space, but in addition to that, you have these prophecy cards which you're trying to fulfill, and you know there's certain ways in which you want to place your dice on your own board to help fulfill these different cards, which will give you end of game points. There is a lot going on in this game. To me, it feels like a roll and write with an actual board that you are playing on. So it's very much a roll and write game in that sense that there's so many combos you can have in this game. So you really have to keep track of what you're doing, because it can be easy to lose track of, you know, the order in which you're doing things, because it is super combo-tastic. But I absolutely love it for that reason. I think it's a really great game. I have the deluxe edition, so you know the components really enhance the gameplay as well. But yeah, again, it's like a roll and write in a huge big box, you know, game form. So I absolutely love it for that reason, because I am a fan of roll and writes, and if you are too, then I think you would enjoy this game, especially if you enjoy Halloween and the monster theme. So yeah, definitely check out Monsters on Board. That was my number 7 game for 2022. My number 6 game for 2022 is Mythic Mischief. So this is a game for 1 to 4 players designed by Max Anderson, Zach Dixon, and Austin Harrison, published by Ivy Games Studio. Absolutely love this game. I had the opportunity of covering it for its Kickstarter, and this is one of those prototypes that I was so sad to let go. So this feels to me like chess with mythical factions. So there are so many different mythical factions you can play with, and you are trying to get your opponent caught by the Tome Keeper, but you're trying to collect your own tomes in order to boost your abilities. And you know, the Tome Keeper is trying to get to 3 different locations before lunch and then after lunch, and the game will end once someone reaches 10 points first, in which case they win, or the Tome Keeper reaches his 3rd location after lunch, and then whoever has the most points will win. So in addition to trying to capture your tomes, you're like moving around walls, you're trying to get the other people, the other faction caught by the Tome Keeper. Each faction has abilities that are related to their own mythical faction. So if you're a ghost, you're going to have abilities that feel like something that ghosts might be able to do, whereas if you're a vampire, you're going to have abilities that are related to what vampires would be able to do. So in that sense, it is really cool. So again, it feels like chess with mythical creatures, and I absolutely love it. And that is why it is my number 6 for 2022. My number 5 game for 2022 is 10 Penny Parks. This is a game designed by Nate Linhart, and the art is done by Vincent Dutrait, and it's published by Thunderworks Games, and it's for 1 to 4 players. This is a worker placement tile placement game. So you are trying to create the most attractive amusement park, and you want to gain the most victory points by having the best amusement park. So you're going to be building different kinds of attractions. You need to clear out more space in your park in order to add more attractions. You need to build concession stands. You have different tracks that you are trying to go up on each round, and also for the end of the game. So there are 3 different tracks, which are, I believe, Thrill, Awe, and Joy. So you have to be mindful of the different tracks, because they will give you different end of round bonuses. And whoever is the farthest up on a certain track would have the opportunity of getting an extra worker for the next round, which is hugely beneficial. In this game, I always feel like I don't have enough turns, and I always want like a couple more rounds in order to accomplish what I'm trying to to do, which I think is great actually. So I actually like how tight this game feels and how constrained I feel in time to try to accomplish everything I want to accomplish. Unlike other tile placement games, the cool thing about this is that you cannot have adjacent tiles, obviously, because, you know, in an amusement park, you don't want two rides right next to each other. It's got a really cool carousel that sticks out from the board. The artwork is absolutely stunning. It gives you that really like vintage amusement park feel, and the components in this are so fantastic, like really nice thick cardboard components. Absolutely love everything about this game and had to include it on my list. I always have so much fun when I play it. So that is why 10 Penny Parks is my number 5 game for 2022. My number 4 game for 2022 is the only game on this list that is from an earlier year, and it is from 2021 actually, and that is Illumination, designed by Alf Siegert, and the art is done by Claire Campen and Jake Tomashow, and it's published by Eagle Gryphon Games, and it's for 1 to 2 players. I've only ever played it at a 2-player count. I absolutely love this game. You are completing pages of a manuscript, and there's also a monastery with like a monk that's going to be traveling along different pathways, and you are trying to get like a number of points based on how you're trying to move the monk on the, you know, path in the monastery, but you're also like putting down tiles in these pages of a manuscript. And while you're putting down these tiles, you are also being mindful of the battles that you will be engaging in with the other player. So it's really crazy that there are like these different kinds of characters, really interesting characters, like there's like dogs and squirrels and like knights and dragons, and different characters of yours on your tiles will be battling with the other player's characters when you have like a bounded battle. So in the way in which you place your tiles is extremely strategic, because it could result in a battle, and then, you know, that would really help the other player in terms of points. It is a really fantastic 2-player game. It's super strategic. I just absolutely love it. It's just very unique as well. Like, I've never played a game like this before, and I highly recommend it. This designer, I feel like his themes and designs are just very unique and quirky, and I absolutely love them. So highly recommend this if you are looking for a really fantastic strategic 2-player game, something that's a little bit different than your average 2-player game. So yeah, definitely check out Illumination. My number 3 game for 2022 is Acropolis. This is designed by Jules Massaud, and the art is done by Pauline Detraz, and it's published by Gigamic Games, and it's for 2 to 4 players. This is a tile placement city building game. This is a really cool game in which you can build your city out but also up. So you can have multiple layers of your city, and the way in which your city scores is extremely interesting, because you need to have certain kinds of tiles of each type in order to score them, and different tiles will all score in different ways. Like, some want to be by themselves, like certain colors, some want to be clustered together, some want to be on the outer parts of your city, and again, you'll have different layers, and the more layers you have, the more points you will get. It is a really cool city building tile placement game. I absolutely love it. It is very strategic. It's a lot of fun every time I play it, and I just had to include it on my list. This is a game that will just, it's a very easy to learn but strategic city building game. So if you are looking for something like that, highly recommend Acropolis. Every time I've played it, my game group loves it, and it's definitely going to stay in the collection forever. So yeah, so Acropolis is my number 3 game for 2022. My number 2 game for 2022 is Libertalia, The Winds of Gale Crest. This is designed by Paolo Mori, and the art is done by Lamaro Smith, and it's published by Stonemaier Games, and it is for 1 to 6 players. Firstly, I love the artwork in this game. I know that it is a newer edition of a game that came out years ago, and this artwork has these anthropomorphic animals in it. I absolutely love the artwork. I love the different characters in this game. So this is a hand management game with simultaneous action selection. So you are all going to be selecting a card from your hand at the same time, and then playing that card, and then depending on which number you played, you're going to decide, figure out the order in which everyone takes their action. This game takes place over several voyages, and you are trying to collect different kinds of loot. And of course, whoever has the most money at the end of the game will win. The interesting thing about this game is that the game starts with everyone having the same hand of cards. Now, there are a total of 50 cards, and one player is going to go through and randomly select 6 cards to start the game with, and then everyone is going to go through their hand and also find their cards and find those 6 cards. But then you're not going to play all of those cards in the first round. So then in the second round, you are going to have different cards, because then the main player, again, the player who is managing which cards are selected, is again going to randomly pick some new cards for everyone to add to their hand. But depending on what people played in the previous round, now you each have a different hand. And that's going to continue happening from round to round. So you kind of have to have a good memory in which you remember which cards someone might not have played that could really benefit them in a future subsequent voyage. It is a really cool game. So you are putting out cards, and then you are, activating the abilities of the cards depending on the number that came out, and you're collecting different kinds of loot. And yeah, whoever has the most money at the end of the game will win. I absolutely love this game because I feel like there's so much player interaction to it. It's just a lot of fun. I like that it's a higher player count. You can enjoy this game whether you're playing at 3 players or 6 players. And I feel like there aren't that many games that you can play really well at 6 players, but this one you really can. And I think it's the most fun at the highest player count. But I always have so much fun when I play this game, and I absolutely had to include it on my list. And yeah, it's my number 2 game for 2022, the Libertalia, The Winds of Galecrest. And we have made it to my number 1 game for 2022, which is Wayfarers of the South Tigris. Now, this is designed by S.J. McDonald and Shem Phillips. The art is done by the Micho. It's published by Garphill Games, and it is for 1 to 4 players. I absolutely love this game. So in this game, you are basically cartographers and astronomers and explorers, and you are basically mapping the lands and the seas and the heavens, and there are many different paths to victory in this game. So, it is very much a game designed by Shem Phillips. Like when you play this game, you can tell it's a Shem Phillips game. So, you have these cards and you're placing them on your own player board in such a way that will hopefully score you mega points at the end of the game. So you have, different cards in different parts of your board. You have like the astronomy section, you have like the different villagers, like the different kinds of people in your game, the different kinds of like land and sea cards. So, you're trying to create like these bonuses. There are so many different paths to victory. So, you have like this part of the board where you're like you're journaling and you're going along this like journal track, and there's different paths to victory on that. I feel like, this game is a game in which other players can screw you over depending on if they took a path on this journal that you wanted to take and they got to it first. I just really, really enjoyed this game, and to see a game that is set in the Middle East, designed by Shem Phillips, like it just really, meant a lot to me for that reason. And I enjoyed the gameplay of it. I enjoyed the theme of it. I just enjoyed everything about this game. And it was just so much fun playing it. And I'm just so happy that there is a trilogy about the Middle East that takes place in the Middle East that, is just really, really good, and is just like a game that so many people would enjoy. So I really enjoyed it, and I had to include it as my number 1 for 2022. So yeah, and I cannot wait to see what he comes out with next for this trilogy. So really excited about that. So yes, that is my number 1 game for 2022, Wayfarers of the South Tigris. So there we have it. That was my top 10 list for 2022. I do have some runner-ups, which I just will read out right now. So one of my runner-ups was Land vs. Sea, which is a really great 2-player game. I believe it can also be played as a 3-player game, but I've only ever played it as a 2-player game. Really great tile placement game in which you are trying to, create sea or land depending on who you are, and you're placing these tiles in such a way to score them, and get mega points. Really enjoy that game. I think it's a lot of fun. Another runner-up for me was Fae, which is an older game. I'll just read you the information for Fae since I'm not sure it's as well known. So Fae is a 2018 game, and that is designed by Sorry, one second, something popped up on my screen. So that is designed by Leo Colovini, and it's a really fun area control game that I really enjoy. So yeah, so that I discovered in 2022, and just really, really enjoy that game. So have to include that in my runner-ups. Another game in my runner-ups is Speakeasy Blues, which is also an older game. So Speakeasy Blues, let me just pull up the information for it. That is also a 2018 game designed by Adrian Adamskew and Daryl Andrews. So this is a dice placement game that takes place during the 1920s. Absolutely love this game. The theme really comes through in like all parts of this game. So the thing I really enjoy about this game is it covers all of the 1920s. It covers not just the crime and the music, but also art and yeah, the different historical people. It is very good. Super, like just a lot of fun. Absolutely love Speakeasy Blues. And then finally, as a runner-up for my 2022 games, we have Cat in the Box, the deluxe edition, which is a trick-taking game. And this is a very unique trick-taking game. And I have been on a trick-taking kick. You know, I was on a trick-taking kick in 2022. I've really gotten into them. This is a really great one because you get to decide the suit of the card as you play it, and it really just changes things up in this game a lot. It is a lot of fun, and I can see why it's, you know, people's #1 trick-taking game, and if you haven't played it yet, you should definitely check it out. So those are my runner-ups for 2022, and yeah, tell me what your top 10 games were for 2022, or if you don't want to tell me all 10 of them, at least tell me what your top 3 games for 2022 were in the comments below. And until next year, bye!